Ena mate, moi mai, ka hoki ki tēnei au, e te whare e tu nei, e te wahi tauna nei ngā Ngāti Whātua, e ngā mana whenua me ngā matawaka, e te koro mātua. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā hoi whā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Ko te kaupapa o tēnei rā, ka mihi whānui ki a koutou katoa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings to everyone gathered here today. I acknowledge mana whenua and the land we stand on. I acknowledge this house of democracy. I acknowledge the founders of Auckland from the earliest of times and remember those who have passed. I acknowledge the Mayor and all my council colleagues, friends, family, staff of the Auckland whānau and those tuning in on the live stream. A big warm mihi to you all. Sorry, I wasn't going to get teary this early on in my speech, but one thing I guarantee, there's going to be a few tears. It is a great honour to give a maiden speech as the newly elected councillor for Waitemata and Gulf Ward, representing the beating heart of Tamaki Makaurau and the stunning Gulf Islands. An area contributing 20% of Auckland's GDP, of tremendous population growth, increasing diversity, major cultural institutions, world-class places of learning, with residents who experience everything from dense urban vertical living to off-grid rural lifestyles. I acknowledge my predecessor, Mike Lee, long-serving councillor and former chair of the ARC. Among many achievements, he was instrumental in the renaissance of Auckland's public transport and the expansion of the regional parks network. Passing the torch graciously is not always easy, and I wish him and Jenny well. It has been a privilege to have been part of Auckland Council right from the exciting but at times daunting beginning in 2010. I acknowledge Auckland's first Mayor, Len Brown, whose massive contribution has really yet to be written about, and for also making those early days a lot of fun. I pay tribute to my many colleagues who over the years have tried hard to make the Super City experiment work for the best interests of our communities. It is very timely for the CCO review announced by the Mayor to examine the part of the governance model that was deliberately set up to corporatise Auckland and remove democratic decision-making. I come to the governing body with the experience of 9 years on the Waitemata local board, working for inclusive, accessible, safe, healthy, connected, sustainable, resilient communities for everyone to enjoy. It has been a challenging and immensely satisfying and enjoyable time, and I'd like to acknowledge my former colleagues on the Waitemata local board, Vernon Tava and Christopher Dempsey and Cheryl Chambers, who are here today. I'd like to think that I bring to the big table the ability to get stuff done, make the most of modest budgets, work alongside community and business organisations, always with a commitment to genuine partnership with mana whenua. There is still much to learn, and I thank everyone who's supported me on this journey. Former Chair Cheryl Chambers' contribution to establishing the Waitemata local board and setting the foundations for strong local decision-making across council can't be underestimated. Remarkably, as chair and deputy chair combo over 9 years, we never once had a bust-up and no tears. So I thank him for his support, guidance, and for becoming such a strong advocate for making Auckland a great place to cycle, even though he never has any interest of getting on a bicycle. It's easy to let go. It's a little bit like handing over my baby knowing that the local board is in good hands under new chair Richard Northey and with an impressive team. A shout out to the wonderful, committed local board staff, perhaps watching on the live stream, but I know they're meant to be focused on the local board workshop today. They support the board so professionally and effectively. It goes with the territory to receive a few insults and the odd nasty comment. Supposedly one of these is that I work well with bureaucracy and management. I think that means you, Mr. Town, and the team. Absolutely, I will continue to work positively to develop positive relationships and collaborate with everyone who is committed to working for and serving the best interests of Auckland. My role is to ask difficult questions and to know when to challenge advice, but I make a commitment to do that always with kindness, empathy, and respect. There is no room for bullying around this table. But just a warning, I do have a resting bitch face that I just can't help. I'd like to acknowledge my fellow class of 2019, Angela, Tracy and Shane. As former board chairs, I believe we will bring to this table an approach of collaboration, cheerfulness and working together that we have experienced at the Chairs Forum. I know we are all here to bring our A-team, A game. Actually, forget A's and B's. I'm calling it now that I am Team C, Team Collaboration. Wayne has already asked to join my team. You did? It's collaboration. You said you're Mr. Collaboration. Like everyone around this table, I was elected independently. What I do hold as a badge of pride is that I'm part of the City Vision whānau and joined Kathy Casey as a City Vision councillor. Like Kathy, I don't belong to a political party, and just to put the record straight, there is no party master. At least I'm yet to meet him or her, if you know where they're hiding out, Kathy, and I've yet to find the so-called back room where the deals are meant to be taking place. Desley, you might know where that is. I've no idea myself. There is no backroom for deals. We are a progressive coalition with shared values of social justice, commitment to the living wage, outstanding public transport, environmental restoration, action on climate change, ownership of public assets and a real say for local communities. We are upfront about what we stand for because we believe our role is far more than what we are as individuals. I respect that around this table we've all come from different political traditions of the legacy councils, but the reality is that I would not be here without being part of City Vision. It was the only way for progressives to break through the CNH stronghold over the old Auckland City Council. I acknowledge and thank all those who have supported my election. Robert Gallagher, Chair of City Vision, Jeremy Greenbook-Hyld, my campaign manager and the wider support team of volunteers, including on Waiheke, and the great team of candidates I stood alongside. In many ways, my path here started early on with community activism, volunteering and community building. Like 39% of Aucklanders, I was born overseas. In fact, in London and raised in a post-war new town called Emil Hempstead. Emil Hempstead, where my politics was shaped from a young age by the threat of nuclear war, the toxicity of apartheid and the rise of Thatcherism. My family emigrated to New Zealand just after I turned 14. Surprisingly, for that difficult teenage period, it was a move I embraced. I did. Happily, I don't know why that makes me cry, but yes, I did embrace it. And my version of this family history is that it was actually my idea, right, Mum? But I'm so glad we did come here. I immediately felt at home, living in Ponsonby and going to Auckland Girls Grammar. These are tears of happiness because I do feel so lucky, fortunate that I came here at 14 and one of my first friends is here, Sharon, who's really the brains behind MOTAT, where my interest in service and activism were acknowledged. It's also where my North London accent was beaten out of me at Auckland Girls. I can't even do the accent anymore, but I arrived very North London. Miss Poutney was my principal at AGS, and I'm so pleased you're here. I'm now allowed to call Miss Poutney Charmaine, and she's, as the circle of life, we are now even neighbours in Grey Lynn. In the fifth form, I was one of the founding members of the Auckland City Youth Council, established under then Mayor Dame Kath Tizard. Many of the issues that we sought to bring a voice to continue to this day, and now with increased urgency led by the School Strike for Climate. I was fortunate to spend my last year of school as an AFS student in Peru, and I'd like to say saludos a toda mi familia de Perú y también de Cuba, incluido mi ex-esposo Nelson. And I also got to complete a law degree at Auckland University. I first experienced what it was like to brutally lose an election when I stood for the OUSA exec and came second to last, far behind now Mayor of Whangarei, Hamish McDowell. My community activism continued during a 15-year legal career. During this time, my dad, Mel Coombe, was killed in a car crash at the age of 49. Many years later, and now as a Vision Zero campaigner, I've come to think of my dad's death not just as a family tragedy, but also as an example of why the Safe Systems approach to creating a forgiving road network is so vital. I applaud Auckland Transport for moving ahead with the slower speeds bylaw work, and I will continue to be a tireless advocate for road safety and transport choice. It was redundancy from an in-house legal job at Vector 10 years ago that really kick-started my political career and allowed me to pursue my passions and to throw myself into what I call being a community busybody, with cycle advocacy, sustainability as chair of the Greyland Farmers Market, trustee of Greyland 2030 and organiser of major climate action events. And I'm still working with the many fabulous people that I met through that time, and I give thanks to all the encouragement I received to pursue politics, in particular Suzanne Kendrick and Barb Cuthbert. The challenge for this term cannot be overstated, councillors. Bold leadership is needed like never before. There can be no more business as usual. Our agreed 1.5 target requires urgent climate action in the next 10 years. Everything has to be seen through the lens of the climate emergency, and climate action must be at the heart of all our decision making. I'm honoured to have the Deputy Chair role on the Environment and Climate Change Committee, working with Councillor Hills as Chair. We have big shoes to fill to continue the work led by Penny Hulse, and I thank her for her tremendous support as well to become a councillor. All of us as councillors need to be focused and prepared for the challenge ahead. Decisions must be made for the long term and not just the short term. We must recognise the interrelations between issues: climate, water, coastal risks, public transport, the city centre transformation, economic development and more, and the broad benefits we can deliver for all of our communities across Auckland if we take an integrated approach. I know that you have humoured me with a bit of extra time, but there are a few important acknowledgements that I would like to end with. I'd like to acknowledge the Mayor, a koromatua, tēnā koe. He is a good man with a warm heart who works incredibly hard for all of us. I would just like to see him driving a little bit less, getting out. I know it's an e-car, but it'd be great to experience Auckland more other than from behind the wheel of a car, and actually maybe on foot and bike to experience our communities.
Motorbike?
Oh, the same. Scooter, maybe? I think it's hugely symbolic that both the Mayor and Councillor Fletcher have spoken publicly about having grandchildren born in the week after the election. There's been a reset on a fresh start to work together for future generations. I'd like to acknowledge now my partner, Paul, who's slipped in a little bit late. Forgive him for that. Paul, who's also known as the Dennis Thatcher of Auckland politics, self-described. You won't see him at much, but he's a constant support behind the scenes. Please forgive me for always having an excuse not to do housework. Paul's lack of interest in being my plus one is great news for my wonderful mum, who's always up for everything. Thank you to you both, my family and my wider urban whānau. In the last week, I've had the opportunity to attend the inaugural meetings of the local boards in my ward, Aotea, Great Barrier, Waitemata and Waiheke. And as Councillor Watson knows, I do confess to missing the plane to Great Barrier for my first meeting there, but I just made it in time by catching a very small little plane. I look forward to building strong relationships with the 3 local boards, serving my entire ward and working hard to fulfil the aspirations of all Aucklanders. There's a lot to get on with, and I'm here for it. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Councillor Coombe, for setting a very high standard with the first speech. And it's my great pleasure now to invite to the lectern Councillor Angela Dalton from Manarewa, Papakura.
Thank you. Thanks, Pippa. Hi, Bar. Ko te amarangi ki mua, ko te hapai o ki muri. Te hei moeora, ko te wihi kia e ahoa. Nāna na mea katoa. Ko au Manarewa Papakura, ko Manarewa Papakura aho. Ki te mana whenua o Manarewa Papakura. Kia koutou katoa o Manarewa Papakura. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I'd just like to acknowledge mana whenua, the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, and my colleagues around the table. My opening whakatau was given to me to use today by my friend Rangi McLean. Translated into English, it says, "Leaders don't advance forward without the support of those behind them." To lead from the front, strong leaders require continuous support from the rear. And it is a reminder that we didn't get here alone. We carry the trust and the confidence of residents, friends and family from our respective rohi. We must remember those who lifted us up along the way, so they remain with us along this entire journey. I'd like to briefly acknowledge a few of those people. My family first and foremost, always. Mum, Grant, and of course my 4 children, who have endured 6 election campaigns, traversing their teenage years to their adult years. And colleagues, you will be well aware that the toll this job takes on our families, particularly in campaign time. So all I can say to them is thank you again. Just as our campaign was to kick into second gear of 5 gears, my gran passed away in June in her 98th year. And I only mention this because she was one of my strongest supporters. And the day she left, the campaign changed for me. It never ceased to amaze me, after years of being told to watch what I'm doing, she cared less and less about what people thought about her outlook on life with each passing year. So that meant that my time spent with her was empowering, and it gave me some strong perspective. I'd like to thank both the Manarewa and Papakura action teams who worked diligently, followed advice and kept their eye on the ball and on the end game. And to my running mate Daniel Newman, who found a whole new sphere of tolerance during this year's election campaign. Our 6th campaign together, our toughest campaign together, but it resulted in the election of 20 of our 22 candidates. Thank you, Daniel, for your unconditional loyalty, your friendship, and I'm pleased to be able to sit here next to you now at the governing body table. Finally, I would like to pay tribute to Sir John Walker, who held the Manarewa Papakura seat before his retirement from local government. Sir John gave many years of service to Manarewa and Papakura, and many more to Manarewa in his role as councillor for Manukau City Council. Sir John is one of the most resilient and determined people I have met. His passion for ensuring that every child has the opportunity to succeed underpins everything he does. I would just like to acknowledge Anne Candy, who is here today. Thank you for travelling in, Anne, to listen to my maiden speech. Newly elected to the Manarewa Local Board, but of course previous Deputy Mayor of Manukau City Council and a mentor. Thank you, Anne. Congratulations to my colleagues who have joined me from local board land in the move across to regional governance. Pippa, Shane and Tracy, we've worked together well on the Chairs Forum, and Shane with you on the Governance Framework Political Working Party. Holding a mutual respect for each other's perspective, even though we come from diverse political backgrounds, it gave us a safe place for debate and discussion without divisiveness. Being open-minded to alternative views didn't change our personal positions, but it did enable for rich debate and discussion. The leadership from the Chairs Forum is outstanding in achieving consensus for the greater good, and I look forward to continuing that work ethic with you. I appreciate what a privilege it is to be elected to serve as a councillor for Auckland, and I have been forewarned by a number of my colleagues of the workload, the debates, the challenges, the politics, and I will only appreciate the intensity of that through experiencing it myself. I'm up for it. Having served this council on the local board since the inception of the Super City, 7 as local board chair and 2 as deputy chair. And while the challenges might be different, my experience gives me a tremendous insight into council and the CCO machinery. I support the review of the CCOs. I have experienced through my previous governance role the unintended consequences of policy settings by the governing body and the interpretation of it as it is operationalised by the CCOs. I don't see an obvious governance relationship between the governing body and the full boards of the CCOs, and there is simply not one with the local boards. Therefore, I support a councillor sitting on the CCO boards, and I look forward to all councillors working together to develop the terms of reference for this review. A priority for me is to remember the role of the local boards, our partners in shared governance. It is very clear to me the efficiencies to be gained, the opportunities for communities enabled when local boards are given equal access to quality of advice, input into policy development at its inception, and are geared up by the organisation to fulfil their legislative roles as governors in their local areas and shared governors in the Super City. I know the chairs are very happy to see more previous chairs now sitting at the governing body to join the ones that are already here. The 4 of us elected this time round bring a combined understanding of working with policy implementation, and it is my view that our value add will be through asking the right questions to challenge policy that could marginalise communities through those unintended consequences, as happened with some aspects of the waste minimisation policy. My ward has the highest population of Māori in Auckland. Outcomes for Māori is another priority of mine. Over the years, I have received hundreds of reports to my board meetings that have a substandard commentary under the Māori impact statement. I will continue to reach out to mana whenua and Matuaka, as I have done in the past, for their advice. The Mayor has encouraged me to work with Te Waka Angamoa and form a relationship with the IMSB to support my kaupapa to improve Māori outcomes into decision making. One of the key strategic issues for this council is Māori identity and wellbeing. I hope to add value and influence to how council responds to the issues identified in the strategic briefing. There is also unfinished business from the last term that I'm looking forward to being a part of completing, such as the stadium strategy. Another of the strategic issues in the strategic briefing is how we are going to pay our way to achieve the outcomes in the Auckland Plan. And to that end, I'm pleased to be on the Value for Money Committee chaired by Councillor Desley Simpson. Process improvement based on lean principles holds a strong interest for me. I bring that to the table as one of my values to your committee, Desley. Well, in my election campaign, I promoted the fact that there has never been a woman from the south of Auckland elected to the governing body since the Super City began in 2010. And by the south, I mean the areas represented by councillors Collins, Philipina, Newman and Cashmore. The election of a woman to join these 4 fine men was achieved this election, but not only that, the governing body now has 9 women elected to it, a record. So fun times ahead, but perhaps not as fun as Wellington City Council, who I think have 8 women and 3 men. Skews the balance a little bit. Women's participation in politics is evidence to be critical for the development of inclusive, responsive and transparent democracies. We need policies that are designed by women, focused on women and executed by women, not at the expense of men or instead of men, but alongside and with men. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you as we strive to achieve balance for Auckland. I am pragmatic in my approach to governance. I am also forensic when required, which may get more than a little frustrating for some of my colleagues. Perhaps the chair of the CEO Review Committee might get a little frustrated by that. I see a place for disruption, but not a place for division, although I accept it as unavoidable in a political environment such as this one. I take advice from the officers of council, and I also seek independent advice when I need it. I will aim for unity and consensus, but not at the cost of the people who elected me or the values that I hold fast to. In closing, I would like to thank the voters of Manarewa and Papakura. I come to this role with an indisputable mandate from you. I'm here to serve you and bring your priorities to the governing body through your respective local boards. I will be available directly to you alongside Councillor Newman, as constituent work is a fundamental shared value of ours as politicians. And my final comment is this: if we are to have an Auckland that is inclusive, that starts right here with leadership that is inclusive. We are stronger together. Ngā mihi nui, matawa.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dalton. That's maintaining the standard of the first maiden speech. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to the lectern Councillor Shane Henderson, Ward Councillor for Henderson Massey, alongside Councillor Cooper.
Goodness, it's hard to follow those guys. Wow. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, I rau rangatira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors, and congratulations again on your success. I'm proud to enter my first term on this council full of hope and excited for the opportunities we have to improve the lives of many in our city. I begin this morning by saying, e hara taki toa I te toa takitahi, e ngāri he toa takitini. My strength is not that of a single warrior, but of many. I'm here today through the work and support of my family, my friends, and my community. I want to acknowledge my predecessor, Penny Hulse. What better role model than that? I want to acknowledge Sir Bob Harvey, a mentor to me and one of my heroes. These people epitomise what being a Westie really is. I want to thank the people of Waitakere. There is no greater honour than the chance to represent the hopes and dreams of people living in the land you love. I do not take that honour lightly. I will work every day to repay that show of faith and try and make you proud. There are many others to thank. From my grandmother, who took me in as a young boy doing it tough and raised me as her own. Sorry. My friends and supporters, my campaign team that worked hard for me to be here in this room, to my partner and children here, my love for you knows no bounds. It is these people that drove me to seek office for the first time in 2013 and still inspire me as I plan to work on the huge challenges that face Aucklanders. I feel there's no greater challenge to the future of our communities that we know that are threatened by the forces of climate change. There are also no greater opportunities to take action than right now. We have a choice to improve lives at this table. Declaring a climate emergency is no small thing. It could be the defining moments in the future of our city. It is a call to action, a chance to do something positive and exciting. We can share a vision for Auckland in these 3 years where we're inspiring and leading solutions that will save communities as we know them. There is no doubt we have a problem here and the effects are happening right now. In 2017, Newland Town Centre was underwater after a freak storm. A storm no one in that community had ever seen before. Coastal erosion is already an issue in the seaside communities of our city. Food security is threatened through warmer seas and increased food demands. We are already seeing displaced people worldwide through climate change's effects. It is clear that no one can be truly safe from a significantly warmer world, but it is also true that climate change disproportionately affects low-income communities. It will slam those who do not have the insulation of wealth to protect them from its worst effects. Any attempts to address carbon emissions must also consider social justice and bring people up to a level where every community has an opportunity to get ahead. A sustainable future is the vision of our generation. Not only will sustainability mitigate climate change, it will also improve the communities we live in and make them better places to live, work and enjoy. I am proud to say that Council is showing leadership on this issue by developing a strategy that puts sustainability at the forefront of everything we do. We will inspire people through large infrastructure investment that helps reduce congestion and transport-related emissions. We will continue to invest in our environment and water quality initiatives. We will encourage housing and business that is sustainable and adds to our communities. Public transport needs to be a priority in this term. Private vehicle transport in Auckland was responsible for 37.6% of all emissions last year. Households and businesses are doing their bit to mitigate and reduce their climate footprint, but all that good work is being undone when many parts of our city do not have proper public transport. In places like Massey and Te Atatu, it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account, you're living in transport poverty. You're stuck on Donbuck Road and Te Atatu Road in your car every day when you could be spending that time with your family. Reducing our carbon footprint also means more local jobs closer to where people live. Inspiring work is happening in our central city, but we must also focus on our suburban centres across Auckland as well. With beautiful local centres providing more jobs and housing, with great parks, playgrounds and libraries, this is the kind of sustainable city we want to leave to our children. I'm excited by the possibility and the opportunity to be part of a leadership team on the Finance and Performance Committee in this term and acknowledge our Chair Desley. Looking forward to working with you. Everything we do needs to be through the lens of sustainability, and it's in this role that I feel I can contribute. It's a big responsibility, and it will require a measured approach. It will need responsible stewardship of our rates and debt funding, balanced by the levels of investment we need to fund our current and future populations. I hope in this talk I've outlined some of the exciting potential we have in the 3 years to make Auckland a better place to live and to do it together. This potential doesn't get realised without working together. I would urge my council colleagues to form strong partnerships, work as one team, and let's do the job we're elected to do. Waiho e te toi poto, kaua e te toi roa. Let us keep close together, not far apart. That is the Westie way. I would also urge my colleagues to focus on giving greater power to communities and to local boards. When communities drive change themselves, that's when it really lasts. I'll finish this morning on a personal note. Through the campaign, we welcomed my son James into the world. Down the back there. He's being very well behaved. It's good. One day, James will ask me what I did for him here at this table. Well, I'll dedicate these 3 years, and however many more the people of Waitakere bestow upon me, to answering that question. Thank you, Waitakere.
Thank you very much, Councillor Henderson, and a really strong note that you finished on as well as we think about what we're doing around this table and who we're doing it for. Last but not least, can I welcome to the lectern Councillor Tracy Mulholland from the Faux Ward.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, te whānau. I say te whānau because that is who we are and what we stand for. Welcome today. Thank you for being here. And may I take this opportunity to also strongly acknowledge our mana whenua, iwi, our Pacific friends, and our communities, our diverse communities. I'd also like to welcome those watching online. And may I say, due to an illness with my mother, I hope that she is able to listen today, and I stand for the good values that they set for me. May I also take the opportunity to acknowledge Mayor Goff and our Deputy. Councillors, fabulous councillors, when I sat and listened to the maiden speeches of the others, I look around the room and I have great respect and have had a long history with a lot of people in this room. So may I acknowledge all of you for your hard mahi and what you have done for your communities. It is outstanding. I'd also like to acknowledge my friends, because I don't actually have any family whatsoever in Auckland. So sometimes without a suitable husband or children, I say suitable, I had an unsuitable one. Although he is a fabulous guy, I must say, and did a lot of work for the campaign. I acknowledge supporters, but another large group of people I would like to acknowledge is the staff. And I have been a council officer, so there is no hiding that. I worked at Manukau and I had a great experience working at Manukau. It was part of the best time of my career. This will be the next best stage. It was with great joy, and I think of Alf and others, and it was a real pleasure to work alongside the community there. And you certainly build up a lot of love in that environment. So to the staff, thank you for everything you do. And also to the media, thank you for all the lovely words you said about me. Long may that continue. And to the team CNR, thank you. So I'd also like to acknowledge those that did support me in my selection as councillor for the Faux. I do want to congratulate you as elected members, and it is going to be a pleasure working alongside you for the betterment of Auckland. I do also want to acknowledge those that ran and were not successful. I want to thank you for your work and all that you have done over many years in this community of Auckland. I take this responsibility incredibly seriously, as do you all at this table. And I am dedicated, and I don't know if there's a level of, because when you don't have a good husband to go home to, and you have a lot more time. So I plan on spending a lot of time here, and it has been a pleasure to come in to the office and work alongside you. Our city requires great leadership, and it requires excellence in governance, as my previous professor would tell me. And I look around the room and know that those skills are here, and you are here because you have all of the people standing behind you. And our aim should always be betterment for the community, listening to others, creating an environment for people to live in harmony, and enabling an environment where people can happily and joyfully live their lives and achieve their goals. In our working and professional lives, one of the things that I have learned is relationships are the key to a successful life. And no matter our circumstances, people, without doubt, are the key. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. Having worked in the public sector, of which I have already referred to, not only in Manukau, but I worked for Waitakere City Council. And I acknowledge the time spent, and I certainly acknowledge Councillor Cooper and others who I had the pleasure to work alongside. You are outstanding councillors then, alongside Councillor Hulse and others, and you remain outstanding councillors. I also worked as an investment champion for ATEED, and that was a fantastic opportunity to learn the value in those environments of public service and the need for effective, efficient service to community, and of course my big one, value for money. So I acknowledge the representation on the committee of value for money. It is really important to our residents, and I also want to acknowledge our aged community here because they had a lot to say to me during the campaign, and I'm very pleased and proud to be serving the aged community as well. We do have a critical role in providing the social and physical infrastructure that our people need, and around this table we make good, sound fiscal decisions, and I am looking forward to that work continuing. Excellence in local and regional economic growth and supporting Auckland businesses to be inclusive and world class are important. To me, micro and macroeconomic factors have an impact on our cities and our lives. We need to ensure good economic development outcomes to support this world-class city that we live in. I refer now to one of those projects that we have worked on as a team, and that is the New Lynn Transit Oriented Development Project, a leading transport project for not only the Whau, but for Tamaki Makaurau and, I believe, the whole of Aotearoa. This project continues to be of benefit to the community and is a great exemplar of a live, work, play environment. And I see that, the TOD, as a role model for the type of development that Auckland may need in the future. So great, well-planned, truly livable areas are very important if our towns and communities are to thrive, and therefore the people thrive. So I'm here today because I see opportunities exist in our communities, and the need for us to chant more fairness, more equity, more investment, more safety, more public transport, more respect for our diverse communities, our seniors, and more accountability. We need council's infrastructure and services to meet the growing needs of our people and businesses. We need to feel safe in public spaces and using our services. Auckland has grown, and it is an outstanding, fabulous city, and I am proud to live in Auckland. And coming from the Waikato, yes, I do get called a Jaffa, but I am proud of this fabulous city that we all serve. We are at a crossroads with infrastructure, and we must acknowledge climate change and the provision for transport, housing, and those major infrastructure projects. I do want to acknowledge Councillor Henderson commenting to the New Lynn floods, because I lived through that, and I want to acknowledge the staff that did the great work. It was particularly frightening when I went into my first term. So that is a reality. We need to look at our infrastructure. I, alongside other previous local board chairs, are proud to be serving, and I do want to acknowledge the fabulous local board chairs, now councillors. They have done an outstanding job, and we did work incredibly well together. So I want to tautoko what Councillor Dalton has said. It is also important that we understand our history, and we listen carefully to the communities, and we invest carefully, and we must meet the expectations of that society and community that we serve. We need to take Aucklanders along on the journey, and although not all decisions that we make around the council table will be to everybody's taste, some decisions we know are hard, and it is inevitable that we will need to work together to make and take appropriate decision making, and I am up for that challenge. I am here to make a positive, workable, collaborative contribution to this fabulous team of councillors and staff and people serving. It is a pleasure and a joy to be here, but I see that we must progress in certain ways because Aucklanders do rely on collaboration and excellence in governance and best practice models. For Aucklanders to be successful, we must deliver for them, the people. And this is why I call you to join me and say more, more, and more, but with value for money. Ngā mihi nui atua, kia ora tātou, te whānau.
On behalf of all of the councillors and myself that were previously around this table, can I offer my sincere thanks to the 4 new members of the governing body, all of whom gave fantastic speeches. I think we see council at its best where people talk about their hopes and dreams, the things that motivate them to do public service, and it reminds all of us what we are here to do. I said before introducing the councillors that we would benefit from their experience, their competency, and we certainly will. But we'll also benefit from the passion and the emotion that councillors showed in giving their maiden speeches. And it's good to have some of that emotion here because that's what we're here about. You know, we do a lot of nuts and bolts work, but it is about the future and what we can create, the fantastic city that we can contribute towards. And somebody acknowledged that both Councillor Fletcher and I had grandkids born a week after the election. Probably should have been a week before, actually. But and also to acknowledge Councillor Henderson and James. That's pretty special. And James was there and was much better behaved than my granddaughter, whom I referred to in my inaugural speech. I'd like to acknowledge also that the gender composition of this council has changed towards greater balance. Of our 20 councillors, now 45% are women, and I think that that's positive. Nobody elected because they were women, but simply recognising their competency and their skill and to get that better balance. I'd like to also acknowledge those who have left. We had the chance to farewell Sir John Walker and Penny Hulse, who are both fine councillors. The nature of politics is that some of our colleagues we never get the chance to farewell. But I would like to thank both former Councillor Ross Clow and former Councillor Mike Lee for their service over many years. It is an adversarial arena that we work in, and there are winners and there are losers. But let us acknowledge for a moment the huge contribution that those 2 members that we never had the chance to farewell have made over time. Yeah, let's have a round of applause. I will put the motion shortly, which is on the screen ahead of you, which is to receive the speeches, both my inaugural speech on Friday night and the 4 speeches given by our new members of the governing body. They will be part of the record of council. And I think if, sometime in the future when a historian looks back and tries to understand what moved us around this table, those will be relevant reference points to what this council is about and what we're striving to achieve. Much of what was in the content of councillor speeches followed similar lines. It was about the importance of climate change and the environment that sustains us, and this being the moment in time when we have to turn declarations into action. It was about the fact that we need responsiveness and accountability and how we can improve the structure of council and particularly our CCOs. And finally about creating the infrastructure that we need to match the growth of this city that is moving forward and growing at unprecedented levels. Can I finish with a comment I picked up from the first of the speeches from Councillor Coombs, where she talked about the need for collaboration, cheerfulness and working together. And that was a nice way of summarising the affirmation we make at the start. And Councillor Mulholland, I think you ended up with a similar theme. And I think, you know, when we look at what the public expects of us, yes, they expect us to have different views and values, and we will. That's the nature of being human beings and the nature of politics. But we should not let that divert us from our responsibility to work collectively together, to collaborate together, to seek out consensus and to seek out the action that we need to take to make this the great world-class city that Auckland can be. So a big thank you from me to each of our maiden speakers today for your inspiration and for lifting us up. Let's have another round of applause for them. And I will move the motion and ask for a seconder. Seconder, Councillor Darby.
Your Worship, I
Councillor
wonder,
Fletcher.
in the spirit of the meeting today and your gracious words around the contribution of Councillor Lee and also Councillor Clow, whether you could incorporate that into your motion, that we acknowledge the achievements of both of those former councillors on behalf of Auckland.
I'd be delighted to do that. So we will include, it's coming up as we speak. So the contribution may, and the public service given by former councillors Ross Clow and Mike Lee. Be delighted to do that. Maybe we could, public service and contribution. Achievements, public service and contribution. So that's been moved and seconded. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. I declare it carried unanimously. And can I suggest that we'll take just a 5-minute break so that we can personally congratulate the councillors, and so some technician can repair my screen, which is no longer working. So if we recommence at 10:35. Thank you.